We have a demonstration today, and we have from the Department of Technology, we have Sharia Alhami with us today. And so we will go through this process, but I'm going to hand it over to you now, Sharia. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharia Alhami. I work for the Department of Technology, and I'm the Enterprise Data Architect. The GIS Division, Geographic Information Systems, is a section that is under my team. And Melissa Williams is one of the software engineers that works with my team. She'll be actually taking care of the demo. What I have for you, which is just 2 slides, I really just speak to what this product is, what it is that you're looking at, what the city owns and has access to. And then I'll pivot to the data, which is the second slide, because that's really important. I want to make sure that you know what type of data right now resides inside the platform and what is coming to it. So without further ado, as I said, the redistricting tool is a product of Esri. Esri is the city's enterprise GIS platform. For this project, we have procured 2 licenses. Good news is that this product and its outcome is all available to you from a web browser. That means you don't have to install a software and worry about that. You get a URL, you get a link, and you can look at the outcome. Basically, the package facilitates collaboration and sharing, and that sharing, really what's important to mention is that the sharing can be secured through this platform. So a plan can potentially be shared either with the public or with selected members, perhaps this committee. What's really nice about the platform is that it has some built-in tools to check on compactness and allowable population deviation, in addition to other redistricting criteria that is very well known. Another really positive thing about the package is that minimal GIS experience and training is required because it's been designed to be very easy to ingest and understand. Last but not least, you can get reports out of the platform that meets legislative requirements. They're all built in. So with that, I'm going to go to the data sources. As I mentioned, the platform today, right now in July, we yet do not have the data that in previous censuses we had access to due to COVID more than anything else. But the Census PL 94-171 data, which is the same type of data we're going to get for 2020, is available within the package, but it's only for 2000 and 2010 census. Another benefit of the platform is that not only you have access to these types of data, the censuses, PL 94 data, but also you can get access to other data sources. And those data sources can either come from within City of Columbus, the data layers that we have inside our GIS system, or from ArcGIS Online, which is again an Esri platform that has a lot of content, including base maps, including a lot of demographic data. American Community Survey, ACS of varying years are available for consumption into this application. As far as the new data goes, what we know now is that the redistricting data, which becomes available in legacy format and then in additional formats, the legacy one will be available by August 16th, and then in additional formats by September 30th, 2021. Census Bureau itself will make the redistricting data toolkit available to everyone also on September 30th, which should make our job a lot easier to ingest additional data and bring them into this application. Last but not least, which is important to mention, is that Esri itself will prepare the data, the 2020 data for us as soon as the Census Bureau makes it available. And because this is a cloud-based offering and a cloud-based package, it will appear one day, hopefully very close to September 30th, or maybe, I don't know, fingers crossed, maybe even a little bit sooner than that. So with all that, I'm going to hand it over to Melissa, who has the actual fun stuff, which is the demo. I think we're going to just maybe hold the questions for the end, if it's okay with you.
Hello, my name is Melissa Williams. As Sherry mentioned, I'm a software engineer, and I'm just going to explain to you what this package looks like and how it's used. This is just a quick little demonstration. It's not the full 9 districts. I just put 2 in here for our sample tonight, just so we can get a quick look of how it works. So I'm going to start by explaining what is actually loaded in the map right now. If you look along this left side here, you can see this contents window, and each one of these are layers that can be turned on and off. And starting at the bottom is our base map. And right now, the topographic base map is loaded. It might look a little similar to like Google Maps or something like that, but we can turn it on and off by checking that box. We can also change the base map that's loaded by clicking here, and then you can change to imagery, for example, change to street layer, more refined, but you can choose which one you want, and you can switch back and forth whenever you like. I'm going to stick with this one for now, just because it's a little less cluttered and it's just easier to see, but that can be changed at any time. Right above that, where it says Ohio 2010, this is the 2010 census data, and what is loaded right now is this black boundary is actually the place. It's the census geography called place for the city of Columbus. If we zoom in a little farther by clicking this little zoom in window, I can zoom in closer to the city, and as you can see, the black line has changed, and now what we're seeing is actually blocks. These are the census geography blocks, and if you actually go in, I'm going to go in a little bit farther, and you can actually get information about each of these blocks by clicking this identify button here, and then I go in here and I just choose one, and as you can see, it lists all of the census variables associated with that block, and I'm going to say use only the ones that I want to see, which are selected ones that I've chosen already down here as a preset set of variables from census demographics. And you can see that census block that's selected in yellow has all of these counts associated with it. In particular, the main one that we're looking at is this total. So that's the total population for this specific selected block. So then you can see that that data is kind of contained in the background in it, like a database related to that geography for the census blocks. The next one I want to show you is districts. These are what we're going to start creating tonight in the demo. Right now, there are no districts created, so you can't actually see them in the map, but you can see the data behind it, which is in this table down at the bottom. And as we are going to create the districts, you can see these numbers are actually going to change on the fly as we create the districts. So as I select blocks, we're going to select blocks and actually assign them to certain districts. You can see all of these numbers will automatically change, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But before I get to that, I want to show you these 5 layers up here, starting with area commissions. We have loaded specifically for the city of Columbus. So they are just for reference. They don't actually participate in the districting itself. I'm going to zoom back out so you can see this. But for example, these pink boundaries are area commissions. And again, if we want to get some information about it, we can identify a feature by clicking on it. And then we're going to change this here to say, I want to see information about these area commissions. Click it again, and then it says here, the name Greater Hilltop Area Commission. That's the one that's selected here in yellow. So you can see there's information associated with each of these, just as there was for the census blocks. And we can turn it off and just view the next layer. I'm going to go back and actually clear this so we don't see that. The next one is Columbus Communities. Again, you can't see labels on here, but if you want information about it, we can click the identify a feature, and then we have to select it again and say which one we want information about. And this one is, here's Greater Hilltop here. You can click another one, West Scioto, so you can see that. So we're going to go ahead and clear that. The next one here is just the corporate boundary, just shaded for reference. We have some ACS data here. This is median household income, shaded lighter to darker as far as income goes, and as you zoom in, it will stay there, and it might just help as you're drawing the boundaries if you want to kind of create evenness in your boundaries. Same with total population. This is, again, just for reference, shaded in. And we can add similar layers as needed, just like these layers have been added already. So those, again, I'm going to leave those off for now, just for simplicity's sake, and we're going to actually start going through and doing some of this assignment for the district, and so you can see how that looks like. So the total census population right now for the unassigned area for the entire city of Columbus is showing right now at this 787 number. Since we've divided into 2 districts, it has a target value, divided in half of 393,517. And so this field here is deviation from the target. So your target value is going to be, in this case, half of the total value. And as we add value to this, you'll see this target deviation change, so you know how much you have to either take away from a district or add to a district to get it at your target. These other variables here are the census demographic variables, and if you hover over it, you'll see what the names of them actually are in more common sense terms. And if you want to change those, all you have to do is click this demographics button. And you can see here, I've only selected 2 of the categories, the universe and the standard. You also have many other choices here that you can go through at your leisure, and you can see the description here. And as well, Esri has a little more in-depth sites here with some information about what do all these variables mean and which table does it come from the census data. So you can see exactly what those variables refer to. So these can be changed at any time during the process, turned on and off. So now that we have our 2 districts and we have our variables selected, we can actually start assigning districts. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see our blocks. And then there's multiple ways that you can take and select blocks and assign them to a district. So first we have to select which district do we want to assign our blocks to. So I'm going to select District 1, and I'm going to say I want to just click a point and assign that block to that District 1. And so I'm just doing one single click, and so you can see which fine control you have by selecting individual blocks one at a time. You can also do a larger polygon. This is just by a rectangle by clicking and dragging. And it's anything that intersects that rectangle that I just drew. And again, this is a polygon, so I can just draw a polygon point by point and double click when I'm done. And that will do an assignment. So that's drawing a polygon. I can also draw a line. So if you wanted to follow the curve of the river, for example, you can draw a line along here and select blocks that way. So those are all different ways. We can also do an undo if we accidentally assign something we didn't want to do to a district, and then there's a redo. One thing that you can do once you kind of like the assignment that you have, say you like this assignment right here, and you want to start working on District 2, and you don't want to accidentally select blocks and take them away from District 1, you can lock them. So if I like this, I'm going to click this button, Lock, on District 1, and those are now frozen. They cannot be moved to another district. You can see that hatching that appears there. And now I'm going to say I want to assign blocks to District 2. I'm going to grab a rectangle, and I can go right along the border of this. It's not going to take any of those out of District 1, but it will add the ones to District 2. So that's what that lock feature does, and you can unlock and lock that whenever you like. One other thing that might be helpful is being able to select a certain area. So say, for example, you have an entire Columbus community that you want to add to a specific district. So I'm going to go back to the Identify tool that I used before with the Columbus communities, and I'm going to select it. And I'm going to say I want to select the Columbus communities here. And now that it's selected, I can scroll down here, and I say, take it away from any of the districts. Anything that's already been assigned in that yellow area is going to be now assigned to District 2. So I click this, and it takes that entire area as a polygon, so I don't have to go and trace that polygon and outline it myself by hand. All I had to do was select it and then tell it, take anything within that area and assign it to my district. So that's one way to do that. I turned off the lock. But yeah, so the lock still works the same way. So if there was a lock, it would not take it out of that selected area. So, yeah.
Will it identify
Uh-huh.
it looks to be a will it identify, so when I look at the map right now, I see District 1 and District 2, there's a white little teeny space or a couple of them. Will it automatically find those spaces that?
Oh, good question. So yes, there are some, right here you were talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so there's some tools that I'm going to get to in the second step
Mm-hmm.
that actually identify any unassignments, like you accidentally missed
Yep.
a little sliver along the edge or in a boundary.
Yep.
It will zoom you to those areas and you can
Gotcha.
actually do
And
that.
then another quick question.
Yes.
I'm assuming that it's layered in a way that it distinguishes between owner and resident based on voting record or something?
And
Okay,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're talking
got it.
It's not a data set that's available to us.
Got
But
it.
if
So we
we
don't
take-
know if that's
Oh.
the owner or the voting.
Yeah, that's a data set.
Whoever responded to the census from that address, or just a resident, if whoever
If what you mean is that if the number of voters by census block is available, that when you click on a block, then you can see what the percentage of voting population is. Is that what you're asking?
I was trying, so when we did the Westgate, I noticed that the demographic breakdown there, I think it showed as being African-American and 3 Asian. And I was curious if that was reflective of who actually lives on that block or who may own those properties.
Oh, it is who lives in those
Who
blocks.
lives, okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Excellent.
Sorry, I misunderstood the question. But,
yep.
but also voting information could exist. It's not we're going to check into ACS data. They may collect that data via the long form, the formerly known
Yep.
as long form. So we'll get back with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
While we've interrupted your flow, could I just ask also, the definition of blocks in this context, how does that relate to census tracts? Can we explain just what blocks actually represent, if it's easy to explain?
Absolutely, that's an excellent question. Census geography has many levels, starting with United States and then coming down to states, counties, regions, place, which is incorporated areas, townships, but also the 3 prominent geographic levels are tract that you just spoke of, block group, and block. And this is a nested model, tract being the largest geographic area, which within it you see and have block groups, and then within block groups you have blocks. Does that make sense? And then the block is the smallest unit of geography, and you can refer to it in urban areas, mostly a neighborhood block. A block that is surrounded by 4 streets in most cases, but of course it varies where you have bodies of water or you have rural areas. But hopefully that answered your question. Another excellent question. The Department of Development in City of Columbus came up with the Columbus communities in 2018. And if you can zoom out, unless it messes up your demo, they basically looked at multiple data layers, including Area Commission and other data sets that they had, and came up with this polygon layer that covers the entire city of Columbus, but also covers some of the areas that are not in the city, but in sort of the unincorporated areas for decision making. I actually have a slide that maybe is a good idea to bring in. I kind of expect it, I guess. So this is the Columbus communities. And if you're interested in learning more about this, I can provide links to Naya to provide it to you so that you can learn more about how this data layer came about. And like I said, our colleagues at the Department of Development know all the details and the reasoning behind why each one of those neighborhoods are delineated the way they are.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the rest of the demo. I'm going to turn off this Columbus communities layer, and now I'm actually going to do just a quick little assignment. I'll show you that question you had before about having unassigned areas and things like that. I'm going to just do a quick assignment. I'm going to assign everything to District 1 for a second. I'm going to grab everything from here. And then I'm going to assign some to District 2. And then I'm going to purposely unassign some and say we forgot those and just see what happens on the review. So I'm going to say we just take these over here, up here, this little corner. So now, say you've finished what you think is a good draft and you want to make sure that what you have is good data. So now you go to this review tab over here and you can do this check integrity. And it's going to do a bunch of different checks. These three are pretty much, they're always going to be valid. I think this says, can a census area be assigned to two different areas? The way we're doing it, it just really doesn't happen. So this one's pretty much always going to be good. Population summary says the total of the district populations summed together equals the total of the whole, and that's pretty much always going to be good. The district count check makes sure you have at least one census block assigned to each district, which is good. These ones are where you're probably going to come across some errors. So maximum deviation check is where it's going to check your target and see how far are you away from an acceptable amount of deviation. By default, the plan is set at 10%, but we can change it to anything. So the 10% would be that 39,000 is the allowable. I can change this to 5 if I want to refresh it, and now you can see the allowable deviation is less. So you can change this whenever you want, and you can see that it did pick this up because we obviously don't have an even distribution of our two districts right now.
Melissa, I have a question. So is it possible for us to see so the charter requires that the largest and the smallest district be within 1%. Is it possible for us to see that while we're doing the maps without doing this end of the check? Or will we not know that we're in that 1% range until we do the check?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wait until the end because that's, you don't know what the smallest is going to be until the very end. Yeah, that's kind of I don't think we can create that as a custom variable. It doesn't.
Okay, thank you.
The next one is the null assignment check, and this is what we talked about before. It's going to find this area here. It's going to zoom to any areas right here that have unassigned values, and you could go ahead and at that point, you can probably see it now that it's zoomed into that level, and you could go ahead and make your assignment and do the integrity check again. The connectivity check is looking for separated areas like islands that are deviated, like you have District 1 in multiple pieces. So when you click this detail here, you're going to see that hey, these have multiple parts. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're all wrong because of the way annexations occur, you may have to have some, but you have some that you're going to review each part at once. So it's going to zoom to each one, and you keep clicking next part and say, oh, this one's clearly not acceptable. We can move this one from District 1 to District 2. So you can go to next part, and it will just flag them and zoom to them. And that way you can clean them up a little bit and do another integrity check. And it's kind of an iterative process as you go. So that's the integrity checks there. So the other thing Sherry mentioned before is the compactness test. And there's a bunch of different statistical methods that it's calculating automatically for you how well, I guess, each district is compacted. And there is more data here that you can see actually how those statistics are calculated. So it depends on which one, if any, that you would like to use, but you have your choice and you can look at these and do some further research to determine which of these you may want to use. The plan histogram is a count, and it's going to actually just show bar graphs of all the districts. So in this case, the selected demographic variable is the total population. Ideally, you're going to see a flat, all your bars should be close together. At the end, you can change this to any of the populations the demographic variables you want to see specifically for all of the districts together. The plan distribution is similar, except it's showing as a percentage all the districts in a pie chart so that you can see, again, variables, each one selected as you want to. last one here, district distribution, it's showing a single district. I can choose one, and it shows all of the variables that we have in a pie chart here. And then we also have reports that can be created here. So again, you can choose which variables you want to have included in your report and take them out. You can choose the format of the report, PDF, Excel. You can email the report, and it does take a few minutes. So I wasn't going to do it during this demo. It took like 5 or 10 minutes for it to show up in my inbox, but I'm going to show you just an example one. This is a report that it created here. You can have all your districts showing. It broke it down by each district. District 1 has a set of data, District 2 has a set of data, and the different demographic variables here. So that is definitely something that you can play with here and experiment with the reports that are available here. Once you are finally done with having a draft review plan that you want to share out with either other members of the commission or with the public, there's a way that you can publish your feature layers to ArcGIS Online, and then we can actually create maps that can be shared. And this is an example from the Vision Zero initiative for Columbus. This is the website that they have, and we helped them create this map here. And so we could have something similar where you have a map that would open up as a full screen, and then you have different tabs on the map. For example, maybe you have multiple plans that you want to present, Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, something like that. You could put data along the side. Some of those graphs could be used as images and inserted along the side with some extra data, creating either pie charts or bar graphs here. So this is just an example. Definitely the data doesn't correspond, but this is just an example of how data could be published and shown to people. And again, if you want to get feedback from citizens, for example, this is a way that Vision Zero is using. They have a map that people can actually mark up and add comments to. And each of these is somebody has clicked on and added a specific issue at that location. So if you wanted, you could actually have your plan showed in the background here, and people could actually put little icons of an issue they see right at a specific location.
Quick question, Melissa. So can this be shared as a link on our website? So when we post it on the webpage, we can say, here's the link to public comment and review.
Yes.
And then when they do the comments and stuff, do we have to click on each individual one, or will it send it as an email? How does that work?
So it actually collects into an online database that can be exported even to Excel. I mean, there's simple ways you could view it online on the Esri platform as well. But there's, we could definitely export it so you could do further analysis separately from the program too.
An additional comment is that for crowdsourced applications such as this one, you really need to add a layer of validation because you never know what people are going to put in. So before you actually see the outcome, and that's what our colleagues at DPS are doing, they look at what people are typing in. And once, they have validated that the comment is not something that is offensive, that's when it appears on the application. So that type of workflow exists in the package.
Wonderful. Thank you for that information, because I was curious as to how that piece would work, because we are going to have a public comment review period for 30 days each time the map is released. So I wanted to make sure that this was part of our tool and how we got that information and how that would be explained to them so that it can be exported so that they can view all the comments and stuff like that come in on the drafts. Additional question that I had really quickly was, they're going to be creating 3 separate maps. And so will we be able to get public comment review on each individual map? And how does that work when we're working on individual maps? So do we create test map 1, test map 2, test map 3? And then can you do a little bit of explanation around that as well?
Yeah, I think what Melissa shared with you for that multi-tabbed application might be a very good idea to handle the project this way, that imagine this is your Plan 1, Plan 2, and Plan 3. Each one of them will have in the back end a database that will ingest the comments of the public separately. So then you can get 3 separate reports from us, or it is available to yourself too, because you use the package, the platform, and you can then provide the comments to your colleagues.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So will we be able to access this and play with it ourselves at home on our own?
You will not. This is a licensed software, and so I and Melissa have the licenses. So what you will do is in your working sessions, that is when you have the opportunity to kind of play around with the maps, or actually I will take me play around and you will tell me what to do. Because I will be the one that is drawing the maps, and you will tell me how to do the lines. That's why the information is up on the screen, for you to be able to kind of direct me. I am going to ask Buildings and Zoning Services if they can provide me a map of Columbus that has the street names on it, and they can put on like a poster board so that you guys may be able to utilize that as a tool, maybe with some push pins, and kind of see an idea of where you would like things to be based on that. Again, that won't have the census data. The census data is a layer that's going to be in here, and like Sheree and Melissa said, the census data for 2020 should hopefully be to us by September 30th.
I want to add that while this application or the licenses are limited, we do have an option to build an application where you will see the data, and that can be publicly available to you so that you can basically use it for investigation, researching further, and that could have all the layers that Melissa just shared with you. It's just not going to have the tool to help you build what this package does. So if you're okay with that, we can definitely build a publicly open application which has no sensitive data, but it has all the data layers that you can get your hands dirty with and take a look at the boundary like Columbus communities on top of census block tract. We can even provide you with tract. Just tell us which layers you want. We can also, add some demographics for you, and then again, income, race, population itself, all of those can be added to that application so you can actually browse for yourself.
So if I hear you correctly, this addition would allow us, after having made a map here, to view it at home and analyze it further, is what you're saying?
Definitely, that is, once you're done and you have the 3 maps,
Yes.
absolutely, that will be interactive maps. So you can zoom in, zoom out, investigate, but you can't change the boundary. In order to actually build boundaries, we only have 2 licenses, as Naya mentioned.
Are there any additional questions before our guests depart? If
I'm sorry,
ahead.
it took me a moment to think about it. I know that you've had time and perhaps have worked with this software in other projects. Can you estimate at all how many hours it will take to come up with 3 maps that have 9 districts? Would you even hazard a guess?
It all depends how much it all depends on the decision-making process.
Sure.
Because the creation of it, as you saw, it's as easy as a second. You just select
Right.
it. However, just getting to that kind of balance, especially when it comes to compactness, I worry about Columbus's boundary, because Columbus's boundary has so many holes in it and so many corners because of the annexation and all the jurisdictions that are within and outside. So I do wonder how the compactness ratio, because as you know, compactness is anywhere from 0 to 1. The closer you are to 1, the more compact your district. And so it'll be interesting. I'm curious to see what the compactness is going to look like for our 9 districts, because it may not be very close to 1 and still a good district because of the nature of Columbus. We're basically a very, we have jagged edges, so to speak, a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer for the time, because it all depends on how meticulous you want to be about creating that balance.
I understand. I was sort of expecting you to say something like that. I was asking you to go out on a ledge, and I appreciate your response.
Of course. Our pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So I have my license, so if you guys would like to kind of play around with it, I was showing Malik earlier, or Chair Moore, excuse me, earlier, that we were playing around with the maps, and he was able to see a little bit of the work. I can log in and show you all. Let's see, I'm gonna sign out of their account. So this is like a mock-up of a map. Obviously, this is not what the map will look like, but this is kind of how I have just kind of been playing around with the maps and making districts. So with 787,000, if you divide that by, let's say 7, that's roughly 100,000 per person based on current. If we're doing it by when we're thinking about 9 districts, it's a little under 100,000.
Can I see 7, 8, and 9? Just the numbers on the bottom?
Yes.
Yep. There we go.
So there's currently no District 7 at this time that I have outlined.
Yep.
And so I can go to the Create tab like she was, and then I select the hand, I can move it around so you can see District 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 8.
We can definitely see those jagged edges she referenced when we look up at that northwest, that Hilliard section. Yep. Even an island, it looks like.
And so, like, if I scroll in, you can see things more. So here's East Broad Street.
Mm-hmm.
Here is technically where council is, right there. You see the Levesque Tower right there. If you drag over, you're gonna go further east. There's Franklin Park. And you drag back out, you can see, here's Bexley. And then there's Whitehall. And then if you go
Do you see that? How
north,
it's
there's
not
Johnstown
contiguous?
Road.
And are they townships, those little inlet-looking things? Like, it must be. I see Northland, Northern Lights. So that's a township. Minerva Park, yeah.
Ohio State University Airport.
Perry Township again.
So, Ms. Walters, again, she was talking about the fact that it may be, I'm green, it may be unavoidable in some cases to create
Contiguous.
blocks that are not contiguous and assign them to a district. But in our charter, in our mission, are we able to do that? Or, in other words, there are places that are really surrounded by township, I think, that are technically in the city of Columbus, no?
Cannot do.
Cannot be, okay.
Annexation laws require,
Again,
annexation laws require that there be abutting someplace in the city. Now, it may be down Morse Road.
it may literally be a street, a
It
right-of-way.
may be a right-of-way, but
Okay.
there must be an abutment someplace.
Okay.
And that's where you see that they're all connected. Like if you look here at my fake District 5, it's all connected. Even though there's this township over here, there's this other area over here, it's still connected. I can zoom in closer to see what that is. That is Riverside
The
Drive.
river.
So again, as we look at these fake districts, right, these aren't real, this is just us learning the tool. I have a brown segment next to this fuchsia. In theory, they could connect, anywhere you can find them to connect, it would be within the charter to connect them?
They just have to share a border.
One border.
So the districts have to be
So any
contiguous, meaning they
border.
have to share a border with another district. So that means that District 5 and District 4 share a border, and that border
Got it.
happens to be Sawmill Road on this
So
fake
they're,
district.
so they're eligible for connection, in
Yes.
theory.
Yes.
Right. But it also connects with,
So you look here, this is Ohio State. There's Ohio Stadium, the shoe. The State Fair Park,
yep.
and you see all those roads going down. Then there's Grandview. You see Grandview Heights here. You see Gahanna over here. Whitehall, Bexley, Reynoldsburg, Black Lake.
Can you go back to where Grandview Heights or Grandview and what was the other one next? Okay. So because they share a border down at the bottom, that's enough for them to be connected. They share a border somewhere up top as well, right? Yep.
Yeah, well, District 2 is
That purple
is
and
shares
that blue. But
District
how did District 2 get all the way over there?
You talking about this little blue piece?
Yep.
So that was that was part of me playing around.
Got it, okay, okay.
Okay.
Yep,
So if I want to, I'll click on District
Undo
5,
that.
and then I could say, I wouldn't undo it, I'll just like this
got it,
and color it.
got it, okay.
And then, let's see, I think there was
Good catch.
nothing in District 7, or there was no District 7, so I could do, let's say,
Amazing how Whitehall's just right in the middle. And we see the population change with each of those adjustments.
yes, so the total population. So currently, District 2 has 94,000, District 3 has 60,000, District 4 has 76,000, District 5 has 100,000, District 6 has 84,000, District 7 has 108,000, District 8 has 89,000, and District 9 has 76,000. So obviously, these numbers, we would not make the mark if we utilize this map, but the maps will change, with each movement. And so let's say that we get one, we're like, okay, this is the perfect amount of people we don't want to change, and it's the way that we want it.
We'll
That would be a
lock
district
that.
that we would lock. And so that way we can continue to move around the other districts and play around with those boundaries without moving that one district that we're like, okay, this is a good district based off of the criteria.
This is a,
It is, it's green. Yep.
okay. And Jeff, or Commissioner Cowan, you may have more strategic experience having been on redistricting commissions. What is the best way to go about this?
It might look like it's on, but I can't hear it. So you're gonna have to make it on. So Commissioner Cabot, you having served on redistricting commissions before, because we're charged with making 3 different iterations of the map, what is the best way to think about how we should think about our working sessions together? Are we tackling one area of the city first and creating 3 iterations of it? Or I just, this to me is overwhelming in a good way, but
It seems abstract as to
Yes.
how we find our way forward. Seems abstract.
If you're looking for advice, I guess.
Yes.
If it was me and I was you all, I would look at it as holistic. Where are different areas that we can put together, these neighborhoods or this area, and how do that? Realistically, from my perspective, there are somewhat limited options because there's a 1%. So it's like you can move the line from here to here, and that's your 1%. But you have the ability to look at each area of the city. You can look at diversity. You can look at businesses. You can look at green space area. There's so many different factors that you can kind of try to take into account when you're doing it. I think that it might be helpful to look at the city as corridors, what we did before, north, east, southwest, kind of similar to link us in the mobility studies, and look at those corridors and say, okay, what's in those corridors? What are the general populations in those corridors, and think about how you can begin to kind of split those up and keeping in mind neighborhoods. Okay, so let's say that we're looking at, North Linden neighborhood. Okay, so are we going to keep North Linden and South Linden together, or are we going to separate them into 2 different districts? That's a conversation. I think that's part of the reason we had those community conversations, to understand where communities feel like their community is. And so with that, you can kind of take that information into account and say, okay, I know that the neighbors here feel very connected to this area. How can we maybe, think about keeping those neighborhoods together because we know there's a connection there. But ultimately, it's just kind of like looking at things and kind of continuing to move it around.
Counselor Walters, would it be appropriate for us to ask for a few paper copies of these and maybe a simplified key so that on our own we could sketch on a piece of paper and look at our notes and begin to conceptualize how some of these things might connect?
So I don't have a paper copy, but that's what I was saying. I was going to ask building and zoning if they could do like a blow-up map on a poster board that we could potentially utilize with maybe some push pins and kind of say, okay, we're thinking here and here, and kind of set that up that way so you guys can continually play with it as we're continuing to work through the meeting. Another thing that I would suggest looking at is looking at the area commissions map on the neighborhoods website, as well as utilizing Google Maps, because Columbus looks the same on Google Maps as it does on here, essentially. If you scroll out, you can see, like, you type in Columbus, Ohio, and I can actually show you that really quickly.
I understand. I understand where you're headed. I agree with you. I would like the same thing.
So all of this area that you see generally is Columbus, and then you can zoom in and see a little bit more. And this even breaks it down into neighborhoods. So you see South Central Hilltop, South Hilltop, Central Hilltop, Franklinton, South Franklinton, Brewery District, Marion Village, Southern Orchards, Livingston Park, and so on. So you can see all of this. As far as paper copies, I probably would just see if you would use a map of Columbus. I don't know that there is a paper copy of what's on Esri available. And I'm not sure that I can even print from Esri, so that's a question that I can figure out. But yeah.
One thing that might be helpful to me anyway, I'm thinking it would be helpful. Part of my thinking was to start with some of the existing definitions of communities that are built in, and also then look at the populations of those. And I'm just, I'm aware, for example, that Northland, which what we consider Northland is really Northland and the Rocky Fork community as they're defined here. But together they're about 115,000 people, or they used to be. I don't know what they are now.
I think the last time that we talked about it, I think there is between, I want to say it was either 125 or 160. So I know those numbers are very far away from each other, but I know that there are a lot of people that live in that area. So that's, it's an area that is going to be split up into different districts likely.
It probably will, and certainly I'd be the first one to tell you that not all of Northland necessarily is a community of interest, and there are portions that may have more in common with an adjacent district when all is said and done. But nevertheless, I would think I might want to start, just select Northland.
Right.
Make that a district because it's around 100,000.
Right.
And then know that we need to pull some things away from it and assign them in other places. And then look at other large
Big rocks.
communities. Yeah, big rocks, exactly. If you were making a mosaic, you might start with the big pieces first and then put in the small pieces. So one thing that would be helpful to me is knowing what the populations are, knowing we're dealing with outdated data, but at least
Right.
relative populations of those defined communities that we already have built into Esri. Is that something we could get as a report?
Those are on the Neighborhood Services website, I believe.
But just so that we're all looking at the same numbers and kind of roughly coming to our meetings with the same new ideas. But if you're looking at one website and I'm looking at another, at least to kind of get us on the right path.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I don't. It's one City of Columbus Department of Neighborhoods, and they have a website with the neighborhoods on it and a listing of the population of those neighborhoods in it, I believe.
Even if we just printed that, but so that we're all looking at the same numbers.
Yeah.
And as we segment the pieces, where our idea and concept of breaking it into the 9 pieces is using some division of that same total of number.
Chair Moore, I would agree. I think that you both you and Commissioner Paul kind of accurately described kind of my feelings right now in the sense of how do we start? What is
Yep.
our starting point
Yep.
as we think about this work? And I think having one data set just to
Yep.
all of us look at as a starting point will be very helpful.
Yes, yes.
I think that this tool on the Department of Neighborhood's website will be helpful to you. So they have different layers. You can look at the different layers. And this shares the area commissions. That's the layer that I clicked on. Currently, you can see different things as you continue to scroll. You might find this to be helpful. You can kind of zoom in. I don't know that it will show you the percentage data. I will be honest, I don't know that we want to get too deep into the numbers part of it when you're using the 2010 data, because that's going to change when you use 2020. You'll be able to see it as we're playing with it for the first set, and you'll be able to see that when I'm in Esri. But I don't know, like, there are alternate times when data is updated that are outside of the census, and so I want to make sure that we're kind of sticking to the data that's within Esri versus the data that you may see in other maps, which kind of do the incidental counts, and they may include those numbers and they may not.
And I think we would agree. We'd like
Yes.
to work with the Esri data exclusively if it can be accessed easily in a report or...
Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else on their website. 'Cause there's a couple things on here. There's something else that I saw.
I'm almost looking at this as a Rubik's Cube, right? And so who among us can take all the challenges, go home and come back and be able to say, I kept it within 1%, smallest to largest, they're contiguous, and then we see it, and then we can then go through our notes and say, when we heard from this area commission, they shared that they'd be willing to do this. This area said to consider that. And we might scratch our heads and say, well, that still works, or, oh, I have to go back to the drawing board. But having something tangible we could touch and see that one of us was able to solve the puzzle, the riddle, and just keep coming back knowing that it's possible.
In a way, it'd be easier just to like auto-generate 9 districts, and then we could all react and be like, oh no, this is terrible, we need to include these things, so.
Yeah. That would be fun if they were auto-generated. So this just gives, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to click that. I'm trying not to click. I gotta get back to the hand tool so I don't click anything. But this provides an idea of kind of what we're gonna be doing. And so I scroll in because I was like, it's easier to see everything. So if we're thinking about neighborhoods, and then what we also have the ability to do is I can click area commissions. And so now the pink layer, you can see the different area commissions.
Where we see the area commission bordering a white area, that's just because the part that's colored is just, it's not real, or?
Well, some of these are not represented by area commissions. You have to also keep in mind that not every area in the city is represented by an area commission. Some are represented by civic associations, and some may not have representation at all.
And again, when I was talking about annexation law, there can be islands of townships left behind with annexation, but there cannot be an island of incorporated area. It must have a abutment to another area.
Gotcha.
But the islands that you will see will be townships.
Like what we saw in the northwest section, that little island of Perry Township, I'm guessing? Yep.
This will help you to see that. I wish that I could put like names to which area commissions those are. I can from another map, but not at the same time.
When you're building these districts, do you have to do it with drawing on the map, or can you say, from the list of area commissions, can you say, put area commission X in District Y? Do it that way?
You could technically do that, but again, you'll have to compare them to where they are on this map. So you'll have to look at the area commission map, look at this map, and determine where the area commission is on this map, because this map shows. So let's go back to the other map. The one map. I'm going to go to area commissions, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Okay. So if you look here, you'll see this right here is the Clintonville Area Commission and the North Linden Area Commission. They're both right there. And then if you look here, those are those same areas on the map.
I guess what I was saying earlier, though, was it would be helpful to me just conceptually if I knew that the Clintonville Area Commission geography contained X number of people, and the University District contained X number of people, and I would know then what proportion of whatever population we need to contain in a district would be represented by the two of them, or one of them alone, or whatever. Without the population, I can look at the geography, but that doesn't help me because it's population we need to be sensitive to, right?
Yeah.
Well, at this time, there isn't any conversation about restructuring area commissions. So no matter how the lines are drawn, the existing area commissions will remain the same area commission.
Right.
That population data exists on the Department of Neighborhood's website. I'm glad to believe that that was there.
What I fear, Commissioner Cabot, is that if we're each pulling it, it's too likely that we're going to all be looking at different numbers, though. And so we're going to be putting together concepts and ideas that don't end up matching when we come together.
I trust you, Malik.
I wouldn't go that far.
I believe the presenters tonight had indicated that they would be able to pull the data based off the data sets.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking, like, if you clear all the districts right now, you could say area commissions and click on that area commission. It's going to show you the number of people that are in there.
Right.
Yeah, so if I do like this, oh wait, sorry, didn't mean to do all that. And then I click this.
Right, and then,
Where will we do that?
and then if you click that,
I don't know that it will show the air conditioning. It only shows districts. I don't know how she did, how she was able to do that part. 'Cause I don't remember it showing just the air commission data.
She's
They
like,
had she's got area commission
As a layer?
data in her layers.
yeah.
Yeah, I had the layer up, but I don't know.
So just hypothetically, start with a blank district, stick an area commission in it and see if it populates.
But that is what we have, like that.
I
You can
can't,
see what's in there. It just doesn't tell you exactly what's in that specific block.
I can't see it.
Oh,
It's,
sorry.
well, it's just too far away.
So let me zoom in.
but even if you unclick the districts, like, you need to wipe, I mean, I don't want to,
If I unclick the districts, that's what it shows me, but it doesn't.
right, but the districts, I mean, it still shows the population data
of the
as defined by your districts. What I'm saying is we need a clean map.
Okay, let me see if I can.
There's nothing in District 7?
Right now in her, as she put together.
No, we
it
added a
wasn't.
District 7.
Oh, she changed
added
it.
She carved it out of another district.
All right, let's go back to the districts, and then I'll go to take area commissions off.
But these numbers don't meet the 1%, right?
No, these numbers are
Yeah.
just any old numbers.
Yep. Here you go, Commissioner Cabot.
Okay.
You'll need your mic.
Just take District 6 and empty it. Okay, so District 6 is now empty?
Now there's-
Almost.
Almost. All right. Now, can you just, without drawing maps, can you just go to a table someplace and say, put Hilltop Area Commission in District 6?
I cannot.
Okay, so that's what I was, that's a,
Yeah.
I wish that I could do that for you, but I cannot.
I thought that she had done that somehow in our demonstration, but perhaps that's something we could talk with her about to see if there's a method.
Because when she talked about it, I did not, that is not what I understood, is that I'll be able to type in, put X, Y, and Z in here, and then boom, that populates a district.
And I'm not sure you were able to type it in, but I think she was able to use the identify button up under display block, display level block, or
Identify.
something, and kind of hover and select a particular
Yep.
criterion, and then just say, put the whole thing in that, which is what you're suggesting, yeah.
Did she say there was a way to send just the 5 of us a link and we could play with it electronically? She said there was a way to make that link private and then we could go public with another link, but that you could target who got the,
Just for more investigative, like if
Yeah.
we created a map, we could send us, there's a creation of a link, so you could look at the map that you created a little bit more intently.
So-
You can't exactly play with it, but you can see it and zoom in and look and see where your
So-
lines are and stuff like that.
so could we in theory right now create one map that's only visible to us and then each of us could then play with the populations that would come right out of it?
I don't think that you can change the populations. You can look at it more closely.
No, we could do it analog on paper. So I could then spread the lines around an area and it would then tell me what was within those lines, I'm thinking.
I think you have to have a license to draw lines.
Yeah, you have to have a license
it.
to draw lines.
Got it.
You
Got
can
it.
only look closer at what you have already done.
Got
Like,
it.
so if whatever I create, there could be a link created that you guys can, like, when we're done, you're like, oh, this is cool. I want to look at this a little bit more when I get home. A link can be created about what we created while we were here, and you can kind of play with that in your spare time to be like, oh, I want to look at this more and see, like, okay, if we did this, if we moved this line here, like, what does that do for that neighborhood, et cetera. Like, you can play with it in that way.
Oh, then that's exactly what
But in your thoughts, though, you cannot actually move things.
right. In our thoughts.
Yeah, you can be
Yes.
like, okay, well, what would, I'm looking at.
That's exactly what I want to be able to do.
Like, let's say we're looking at district, this is District 8. And this is West Mound Street. So you're like, okay, well, what if I moved this district, District 7, and I put it on the other side of 70? And you can see districts, you can see 70, Interstate 70 right here.
Or I could even just click and see how many people are in. It wouldn't tell me that.
No.
Okay.
I'm just a little concerned that this is going to be a very frustrating process for you as our hands, and we as your eyes, in trying to coordinate. And unless we were to perhaps ask you come up with some set of criteria, whether it was area commissions or whatever, and just have you kind of plot them in some fashion, knowing that they were out of whack, and then we were to sit down and say, okay, what happens if we carve this out, put it over here? But if we have a blank slate, I don't know how easily we can work with you without a lot of frustration on all of our parts, to almost guide your hand and sort of come up with something from scratch. I'm concerned about that and the amount of time it would take compared to how much time we have.
So, as part of their demonstration, they talked about the development department has created Columbus communities, right? And the Columbus communities cover every square inch of the city. And I presume, but I suppose I shouldn't, I presume that the Columbus communities respect and reflect the area commission lines.
For the ones that are represented by area commissions, again, keeping in mind that not every area is represented by area commission.
Right.
Some are represented by civics and some are not represented by
Right.
any organization. formally.
But the development department has created Columbus communities that cover every square inch of the city, and I'm assuming that they don't split area commissions, that they don't ignore civic associations, that they've included them. And I know that every square inch of the city is not represented by an area commission or a civic association, so they then have made adjustments to that. Just seems like that's a starting point.
What you're referring to used to be called neighborhood liaison areas, I think.
No, because there were like 30 of them in her list.
Okay.
What they used to be was, when they used to do land use planning, they had planning sections, Milo, Grogan, this,
Right.
whatever. And I'm assuming that that's the history of where it came from and what it's doing. But again, if it covers every square inch of the city and it does not split up area commissions, it seems like that's a starting point. And again, then if we went back to using ESRI and they had that listed as a layer, which I think they did, then it seems to me you should be able to say, this section, put this one in this district, this one in that district, and that is a starting point to where you might go with
Ms. Walters, is there a way to just generate a report for us of the communities as currently defined in ESRI? That particular data set?
Well, let me make sure I understand what you're asking. You're asking if there is a way to have the numbers.
I hadn't quite gotten to numbers yet. I'm just saying, is there a way for us to see a list of the defined community, I've forgotten the exact term that Esri was using, but.
Are you talking about the presentation that Sheree and Melissa gave? Like this document that they shared Here?
No, I'm trying, as Chair Moore was saying, to try to focus in Esri itself. Well, yeah, that's an approximation as well.
Yeah, there are 70 under Columbus communities.
And I'm assuming that this is the data set that has also been added to Esri. Is that correct?
I don't know that this is a data set that's been added to Esri specifically. I think the Esri has,
I believe it's on there. I saw them on.
In
their map.
Esri, there
I'm not
was
sure.
a choice to show the outlines of the communities, and I'm just wondering if we can go back.
I
and
want to
look
say
at
it's
that.
on there, but I didn't want to say that for sure without looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it's on there.
Columbus communities.
So that's a blue line. So if I go back out, take this down and scroll out,
Right.
you can see all those communities.
Okay. And I'm sorry, how many did it look like there were to you?
70.
70.
70, okay.
And then so if you look at this map for comparison, let's see, this one right here, that would be, if we open that on this map, that would be number, sorry, I cannot see that.
Well, no, they don't start at 0, they don't start at 1.
Oh, you know what, there's
Yeah, they
different numbers.
start
So
at 30.
it's not 70, it's probably like 30-ish. So that's 39, and 39 is Clintonville.
Yeah.
So
They do seem to be consecutive. Starts at 30 with Hayden Run. Yeah.
I think it's 41.
So, yeah.
I counted 41, but I'm not the best counter when I'm counting on. I think it's 40. Yeah, it's 40 or 41.
40 or less.
Because it starts at 30, but yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, as you get downtown, you have smaller,
Yeah.
more dense community boundaries.
So you see, let's say 43 is Harrison West, 46 is Victorian Village, 47 is Italian Village, 70 is Fort Hayes, 48 is Milo Grogan, 68 is Dublin Road Corridor, 55 is downtown. And you have 69, 60, and 61, which is Harmon Road Corridor, German Village, Livingston, or in Brewer District, excuse me.
Yeah. But Commissioner Cabot, I think I agree, well, I agree with what I think you were saying, I'll put it that way, that this may be a good way to start.
Yes.
We're obviously going to need to assemble the smaller communities into a block, not a block, I need to avoid using that word, but into a block BLOC. How's that?
You also want to be mindful, though, that some of these more small communities are densely populated. So, like, if you
Right.
think about certain areas, and because the districts are based on population, the small districts may look small in nature, but because of the dense number of population, it doesn't necessarily equate to the same.
And that's what brings me to my next question, which is where you were going earlier, which is, can we get these along with their populations?
So I
And
don't.
preferably within Esri, because that's where we're going to need to work with, that's the data we need to work
This
with.
is the data layer in Esri. All you have to do is click on it, and Esri gives you the population that's loaded. I mean, that's not the ultimate population, but it gives you the population that's loaded into Esri for that now.
Unfortunately, we can't click on it at home and use
That's
it
right.
to sort of do any modeling in our minds or otherwise. If I had a list, I could at least kind of take that other map and the numbers and kind of cobble them together into something
So
that
let me-
I could then suggest Ms. Walters might be a district.
Let me give an example right here.
Yeah.
So let's put this, let's pretend that, and I'm gonna try to do this, where's the district that I have 0% in? I think we got rid of a district. Was that District 6? We got rid of most stuff in District 6, but not everything. So minus 118. But let's say I did this. That would show you that there are roughly 42,000 people, a little bit less than that, in this area, which would be Clintonville. So let's say there's 42,000 people in Clintonville. Let's just ballpark that. That is the closest I can get you to seeing what's in the individual districts. Mind you, I can clear this map out, and there'll be 0 districts, and then you'll be able to see,
Right.
you'll be able to compare this map to, and I can just take, when there's no districts, I can put the area commission map up or the Columbus Communities map up, and that be the only district, the layer that we see, and then I can kind of put a square on that to create a district, and then I can undo it. So you'll be able to see a little bit better population-wise what's there.
So at some point, we need a working session in the conference room with a TV at least that big, but sitting around a table that we can actually see it, and just spending some time with you going through all of these possibilities.
So I can see if we can get there. There's a TV in the back that's a bigger screen, and I'm going to see if we can potentially get that to be rolled. And if we can get that to be rolled up here, and you guys can see it there, I'll see if I can work that out so you guys can come up and look at that. That's also why we wanted to have the big blow up thing, because I was like, at that point, we can take like maybe a permanent marker and say, can we have this? Can we have a map of Columbus with the Columbus communities on there? And then when we're going through it with this, we can say it's roughly this amount of people in this area and write down the poster board so we can kind of keep a running tab of what's there. That might be helpful to you all. I know this is a lot of information right now, and I'm sorry to overload you all, but.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Do you guys have any other questions for me that I can try to answer today? Yes.
I think I already know the answer to this question. So there is absolutely no way that we can get additional licenses for the software.
The licenses for this software are very expensive, so we wanted to limit the amount of licenses that we got. Plus, it would be hard for you to all have them and be all doing your own things, and that's why it's, because we're ultimately working as a collective.
Paper prints from Kinko's, large-scale paper prints from Kinko's would be cheaper than that extra license.
It would. It would indeed. That's why I'm hoping to be able to get a map created. I'm
Yeah.
going to reach out.
Yeah.
So just to confirm, so who's going to be tag teaming with you? Who presented earlier?
So Melissa she has a secondary license, but ultimately it will be me doing this for you all throughout at least through the first set. Depending on how many sets and iterations we decide to do based on time, I may ask her to work with us more closely because she's a little bit more advanced at this than I am, and so she'll be able to turn things around quicker than I would as someone who has learned how to use the software, but I'm by no means an expert. This is my actual first introduction to GIS, so.
I guess I would like to ask you to ask Melissa, if you could, to show you if there is a way to do it in terms of selecting one of those community outlines and just adding that community to a district.
Sure, I'll ask her if we're able to.
It seemed to me that she showed us an action that was like that. Maybe
Yes.
not that one, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I can email her and ask her, how do we add specific communities to a district? But when she did that, she zoomed in on the blocks. And I think that might be what you were talking about when she zoomed in like this, and then she took,
Something that expanded her selection to a community or an area commission or whatever.
so,
Wasn't clear on that.
let's see. So let's say we're doing this block.
Yeah.
And let's say we want to add this piece to it. And she was adding like that. Is that what you're talking about? When she was adding the specific smaller pieces to it?
No, I don't think so.
'Cause
I
if we
know
did
that
that-
she could add a block at a time, but I think there may have been some way that she selected one of the entities that are on the left. I'm not sure it was communities, it may have been something else, but I think she demonstrated doing that. I just don't know I don't know how to tell you how to do it.
Yeah, again, my point is like, I kind of wanted to see a clean map again. I just want to see the Columbus communities outlined and then just
Start coloring it in.
be able to see, can we just click on that Columbus communities? And I just want to pull up to see what numbers are in that community.
Yeah.
And I'm okay even if I'm doing it analog, right? I just want to be able to begin to total and combine and
Look at it.
have rough,
Spreadsheet.
yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Naya. To your point, I feel like this is going to be a very frustrating process for all of us.
Everyone.
I've used a metaphor in the past, I've mainly used to talk about doing customer service over the phone, but brushing your teeth by remote control. The feeling that you may end up with toothpaste all over your face
Right.
if we were to do this.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend like I know how to do this new plan, but I will ask her when I start doing new plans what I need to do to create the different layers. But I can scroll back out and make all of this one district. Now everything's in District 7. And then, what I'll do is I'll scroll back in.
I would just figure since the boundaries are already drawn on the map some way, it'd just be easier to just like select. But again, I could.
Oh, I just did. Oh, you know, I gotta change the district again, sorry.
Built in the 20s, before WPA. Wikipedia article on it, I helped write it. Did you really? Well, I've contributed to it. Yeah. You know Fran Ryan. Fran was actually, she was recently a city council member filling in on expired term, but she was previously a city council member back in the 70s. Franklin County Commissioner for a while. She was the chair of the Democratic Party. She's in her 80s now, and she runs rings around many of us. She's very active. And she and I work on some projects together. But I mention her because she is responsible for doing a restoration in this chamber. There's a plaque on the wall. I think it's up the stairs there. But anyway, so this is a special room for her. I told her we were going to be here tonight.
And it's restored to accuracy.
I think that there was some research done to, yeah. So, Chair Moore, what else should we do tonight? What else can we do tonight?
I think we've gotten done all we can get done for the good of the order this evening, right? I think we've become familiar with the tool. We see our limitations and our challenges. We've presented some solutions, and now we wait to hear what we can have made available to accommodate us. So with that, I would say at this time, with us having done all we could, let's call this meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Ms.
We're
Walters.
unanimous.